Hi. How are you? All right. On the main page of the Lambda Days, there was a bridge, and I very like bridges, so I put pictures of bridges on this presentation too. And I picked this one for the start because it has very Lambda-like look. So, it's a Samuel Beckett Bridge in Dublin. It's one of my favorite bridges in the world. It's awesome. So I also like this picture because it shows both of my homes right now. We're somewhere around here of the picture. I originally come from here in northern Poland and now live in southern Sweden. And I work for these guys, usually writing C# code for a web application on the backend. But during night, I turn into vampire and write F# code and drink Java developers' blood. And when I'm not doing any programming, I'm do crazy stuff like flying gliders. It's my weekend 2 weeks ago. So yeah, F#, the language. I see the audience. I could ask who knows the F#, but probably most of you. Who doesn't do anything with F#? All right, good. So we're going to do a very short intro. What's the language about? What is that? And why? And it's not F#, it's F#. So F# was created in 2005 at Microsoft Research in Cambridge. Don Stein was like the main person behind it. It was officially released in 2010. I think with Visual Studio 2010 you have to install it to it, and it's baked into Visual Studio since 2012. It's a statically typed language, but when you look at the code, you don't really see that at the first time, because it has very strong mechanism of type inference, and in very many cases you don't have to specifically say what type you uses. It will figure it out by the values you're putting there. It's a functional first language. What they mean by that, it's not pure functional language. They decided to drop some functional rules to make it actually useful. But you can also write object-oriented code with F#. But it's not the main idea. It's completely open sourced, and it's now the code is now like in the community. There is F# foundation that takes care of the code and everything's around it. You can become a member, and that's cool. It's also .NET language. Why this is important is that you can start using F# with your existing .NET code, like written in C# or VB.NET, and you don't have to rewrite all the stuff from scratch. You can just start writing some modules in F# to include into your organization. You don't have to go very deep with it. And it's first-class citizen in Visual Studio and also Xamarin Studio. It works very well on Mono. We had this question before on the conference. Actually, in my opinion, it has much better support in Xamarin Studio in terms of tooling, because Xamarin has much shorter release cycles, and they use what community produces, and F# community is very productive in terms of tooling and other stuff. So saying that it won't work on Mono is not really true. And one of the most impressive features of F# that I really like are type providers. And it's really hard to explain with that, but I'm just citing the research paper written by Microsoft Research, that you can treat them like compile time component that injects type into compiler. And it's made without code generation. It's not like with some tools that give you like tooltips by IntelliSense by creating code. It's more about compiler plugin that gives you access to external world. And when you write type providers, you have to provide both signature and implementation for accessing external data source. The fact that you get signature allows you to use things like IntelliSense, and you can do what we all .NET developers like dot-driven development. We don't read documentation, we just press dot and figure out what's going to be next. And one of the ways you can write type providers is that they can provide types on demand. So you don't load everything into memory, but you have like some lazy loading. So every time you press dot, it loads some more data from internet or external source or memory or something like that. So I'm not gonna do more talking. I'm gonna do some demo. And also, apart from bridges, I like planes. So this is gonna be very aviation-related demo. And we are all programmers, so probably we all dream of creating startup. Oops, sorry. I have to turn it off and go to a Visual Studio. And everybody who does startups go to San Francisco, right? And we want to be smart about it, so we're going to use HTML type provider to search for cheap flights to San Francisco. Let me just load the references to make sure it's going to work. So the way I like to work with F# is using F# Interactive. It's nothing new for people using functional languages and generally programming languages that have REPL. But when I speak about it and show it at like generic .NET conferences, people are like, "Wow!" But you probably know how REPL works. I just can run random pieces of code in the rep, and I can execute it without doing any program, classes, anything. I can just run code. And I can do the same by just highlighting code and pressing Enter in Visual Studio. So what I'm doing here, I'm just querying a Norwegian website of the like airline. And this is actually not the HTML type provider, but it's part of HTML type provider. It's a parser of HTML documents. So you can go to like all TDs that are in the website, or go to all list elements or tables and that stuff and find some information. I knew how the exact information looks, so I wrote some code to access those. And then I'm just writing stuff for flights I'm looking. This is flights from Krakow to Oakland, which is close to San Francisco, and I can have them for this price. This is the flight departure and arrival. So yeah, we can parse HTML, but this is not the most impressive part because, yeah?
I have a question about the code itself.
Yeah? It's very dirty code.
What is exactly type provider here? Is it something like after the dot, like dot descendants?
No, as I mentioned, I didn't really use type provider. This is just a package of type provider. I'm going to go next to the actual type provider. So every time you use type providers, they usually created like that, this HTML and those triangle, I don't know how you call them in English, but yeah, angle brackets. So for this one, I'm using, every time you use, most time providers need some example to parse. So I saved one of the result pages to get like HTML structure. So now when I'm loading this type provider in Dusto lines, it will give type provider information about structure of this website. So now I can do something like that. And now when I press that dot, I can get some elements from the website. So this can, like in a smart way, parse things like lists, tables, and some other structures. So I see that I have some lists here, and they usually get some weird naming if they're not named in the HTML. So this is called list tree, and this has some values. So I get list what values that will be held in this list. Oops, sorry. Yeah. And when I call it, I get some information that they've been on the booking site. It's like which plane we're flying and how many stops we're having. That's cool. So it's even more, it works even better on a website that's like properly structured, because Norwegian website is not very nice, properly structured HTML. But I needed some real life example, so that's it. So the stuff we get it from here, that we're gonna fly the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, which doesn't have a good press opinion. People seems to not be very happy with it. So I'm wondering if they fly at all, if this is safe to fly this plane. So first thing I want to do, I have my own database of flight I've done before. So I first will look in the flights I've done before, if I fly this plane, if I feel safe in it. So I use for this HTML type provider, I have my own database where I keep my planes. So I'm gonna load it. The way we used SQL type provider is we also initiate with angle brackets, but for now we use like usual .NET connection string for data. So for SQL it's looks like that. So I'm gonna try to load it and hope for the best. Yeah, I have something. So now I can from my code just travel through schema of database. I have, or maybe not. Something didn't quite work. Let's try again.
It worked in the interactive, but not from.
Huh? I don't know what's happening. Stop the error.
It's not working.
You have an app and running, You have an app and running, SQL Express?
I don't need to have it running, I think.
Okay. It doesn't connect to get the schema?
It should. Right. Why is this not working? I'm not happy with this. Anyway. Okay, and now, not really. Okay.
Can you compile the project just to see whose project?
Yeah, let's do this. Field succeeded. Okay, we'll have to assume it works. Because it worked before. Maybe. So what you can do, and I can show you, can go through all tables you have, and you can just travel through them using just from code, which is pretty cool.
I've seen also type providers that uses this quotation marks to access something. Is it needed, or is it how does it work?
So the strange quotation you can use when you have like special characters that are not like characters good for programming, like spaces. So in F# we have like with triple ticks notation that allows you to use characters that are like space and other stuff.
But normally you can use, if it's one word, you can use it directly.
Yeah, exactly. So you can like run normal queries on the using this, basically using clean queue, and do stuff from it if it works. So I'm gonna just spoil it that I never flew 787. So I have to check another way to figure out if this plane is safe to fly. And there is this website, Flightradar 24, that shows you leaves traffic of planes everywhere. And they claim they don't have API and you cannot access the data. But we're programmers, right? and we can press F12. And then we can see something like that. This is interesting. This looks like JSON. So we're going to use JSON type provider. But the true fact is they even couldn't really pull off real JSON. It doesn't really work. So I have to write some code to transform it to real JSON. So I'm just going to quickly run it, and I hope it's going to work. I put it here if internet doesn't work, so just so you know. It's nothing interesting right now because internet works.
Can you increase?
Yeah. I'm just the code I'm clicking right now. It's not very important. So, So we're going to use JSON type provider. So again, JSON type provider is like every other type provider. You need to give it some example of code. So I just put it one line from JSON with fields I'm going to use, like position, heading, altitude, speed, and a few other things. And and we're going to create the type and parse the actual JSON taken from the Flight Radar 24 page. And now we can do stuff like querying through this. Like let's just try to get first element from the sequence, if we get anything at all. Yeah, seems like we get something. Like we can see which aircraft is this. So this is some weird name for aircraft, so I don't know what's that. But we can set it then like altitude when it's flying, and it's 54,000 feet. It's very high for airplanes, so by chance it can be some military airplanes, because sometimes they forget to turn off the ADS-B transponder, which then get caught by Flight Radar 24. So basically I use it mostly for tracking military planes on sky, because I just filter out all the airliners and boring stuff and look for interesting stuff. So So for example, we can look for I'm just gonna filter all Boeing 787 and just write them. So we should get some nice list. Let's expand here. Yeah, there's quite a lot of them. Seems that they're not falling from the skies like flies, so it's good. So let's just for sure check if there's Norwegian flights. So I'm checked by flight numbers, and I know that Norwegian starts the flight numbers with DY, so that's I'm doing this filtering. And that's not good news, because there is no any in fly. But maybe they're actually on the ground or something like that. I'm feeling quite confident right now that I can fly this plane. So that's good. So I went to San Francisco. Long story short, we made millions on our F-Sharp project and startup. And I got bored flying airliners. I figured out I can buy my own plane right now. And to do some research, I'm gonna go to a Freebase type providers. Freebase is a big database of things. Their data structured in many ways. It has many data from Wikipedia and all that crap. So there's many things in Freebase. So I'm gonna just fire it up and show you what kind of categories are in Freebase.
You selected comments closely.
All right. Yep, thank you. All right, so let's dig into Freebase. What we can actually see here. So it's not very visible. It's small font, but you have categories like arts and entertainment, commons, science and technology, society, special interests. There's like all data, so we can look like sports, cricket. I have no idea about cricket. Let's explore cricket. Cricket leagues. Okay. Individuals. Okay, interesting. And we have like National Cricket League. Interesting. What can we date from that? All right, that's interesting. So there are some cricket leagues. Good. Maybe something else like ice hockey. Ice hockey is pretty good. Ice hockey players.
Ice hockey conferences?
Ice hockey conferences. Let's see. Sorry. Ice hockey. Ice hockey conferences. Yes.
Let's go.
Okay. But I don't see Lambda Days here, so we probably won't play hockey here. All right, so we can, for example, access like database of aircraft, and this data is actually taken from Wikipedia. So let's take it. And I know for a fact there's 9,590 kilometers on a straight line from Krakow to San Francisco. So we're gonna look for some airplanes who can fly it without refueling. So I wrote quite an ugly piece of F# to query planes that have a range over 10,000 kilometers, just to have some backup. So let's run it. And I get quite a big list of planes that include Russian strategic bombers and Air Force One. So I guess I probably won't be able to buy them on a free market. It can be a little bit tricky. So let's narrow down these results to get only business jets.
Come on, you're amazing there.
And I got two. It's Bombardier Global Express and Gulfstream G500. That's good. That's nice. And let's see, I want to know more about those planes. So let's fire information about Global Express. I prepared more of them because, interestingly, this query sometimes turns out different information. That's because how this works is it caches some information, and it's not fault of the type provider. It's the way that Freebase works. It just doesn't provide consistent results. That's a little bit weird, but yeah. So I pick a Global Express. Just I don't know. I like the name or something, and mistypings. Yeah. So I can, for example, see cruise speed. How fast can I go? It says 251 in meters per second. It gives me float with a unit. One of the cool things about F# you can have more complicated types. You can get add units of measures information to the floats or integers. So you can be safe from comparing miles to meters, all this kind of stuff. But this is not talk about units of measures, it's just interesting information. So yeah, I think I'm going to buy this plane. I like it. It's fast and cool. But now this gives me another problem to solve, because I know for a fact that this plane needs around 6,000 feet of airstrip to start or land. So we have to find some airports for that. For that, we're going to use CSV type providers, because I found a huge CSV file with database of on airports and airstrips, so we can get some data from there. Yeah. Again, I wrote some boilerplate code for just counting distance of stuff. It's not necessary for us to dwell into it. But now I'm just writing some query for this CSV file. So the CSV file looks like oh yes.
And when do you exactly get this data?
Oh, this is website ourairports.com or something like that.
Publicly accessible.
Yes, it's all legal. So yeah, this looks ugly. I couldn't really get anything from here, right? It's like Evelina showed yesterday. It's really hard to get with CSV files. So I'm going to do some parsing on it. I'm just going to look for airports near Krakow that have suitable runways. And by that, I defined a few things. That it cannot be closed runway. We want to be able to land on legally accessible airstrips. Also, I set up that it will be longer than 7,000 feet. And yeah, let's run it. Oh, yeah. Something's not exactly here. Let's try again.
You didn't run type provider. You run other functions and didn't run.
Oh, yes. Cool. So, yeah, I found like 4 airports. It's like Kamień-Śląski. I have no idea where is that. There is Katowice International Airport, Ostrava, and Prerov Air Base. This would be probably good if I bought a strategic bomber, but probably not good for a business jet. Yeah, interesting. There is no Krakow airport. I would actually expect here, but yeah. If I would look for data like in the US, the airports have more information about the surface, so we don't by accident pick a like grass airstrip. But it's not the database doesn't contain this data for European airports for some reason, so I couldn't do that. But yeah, that looks good. We have now business jet and the airport to store it. I probably could pick Katowice because why not? Yeah, so that was the plan for type provider for today. But then, like 2 days ago, Andrea told me about squirrel type provider. So
Bouncy squirrel?
not bouncy squirrel, but this is type provider, but that was written by I don't remember who. Do you remember, Andrea? Who was that?
Yeah, Ross McKinley, but I called him Ross McSquirrel.
Yes. So Ross McKinley, aka Ross McSquirrel. So I just built this type provider today and just put it here as a reference. Oh no, something. Oh yeah. Yes, like that. And now I have like squirrel, and when I press dot, I can squirrelify. So let's squirrelify. Then I can squirrelify more, and then it writes unicorn. And if I squirrelify more, it would write another unicorn. And this is one of the examples of like infinite type providers, so it can go and go and go. Another one that's interesting is like Don Syme facts, when you can get facts about Don Syme, the author of language. So yeah, so you can see actually that it's possible to write type providers, and if people do them for something like that, it cannot be hard. I can actually show the code for this one, because why not? Correct. Where is it? GitHub. Squirrelify. Yes. So the code looks like that. It's around 2,000 lines of code, but most of this code you don't have to write by yourself, because there is something like type provider started pack that creates most of the boilerplate you need, and you don't need most of it. Like you don't have to write most of it because it's already there in the starter pack. But it's a lot of code, and it's not like super obvious how it works. And you have to have some knowledge in a type system theory, and it's funny. It's funny that Thomas Patricic is laughing at me right now.
I always just copy this file from someone else.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where type providers I wanted to show, and we're gonna get back to presentation to, I don't know, show you some more slides. Yeah, and there are other type providers. There's like World Bank type providers, which is very similar in an idea to a free-based type providers. It's a lot of data, but it's more like statistical and sociological data. on many countries, people, and history and stuff. Very, very interesting source of data. There's XML type provider that allows you to parse XML, OData things to access OData, compatible endpoints, Hadoop, R that was shown by Evelyn yesterday, WSDL that allows you to call like WSDL and WCF services and like explore them, TypeScript, and many, many more.
So how does TypeScript work?
So you can like run TypeScript inside of F#, like TypeScript code using TypeScript type provider. Yeah. And yeah, let's go to some learning resources. So these are some links that's like useful for learning either F# and generally type providers. Try F# is a page that you can basically run F# on the page and learn some things. F# colons is a set of failing unit tests that you have to fix, and by this you can grasp some basics of a F# syntax. F# for Fun and Profit is very, very good website for like reading stuff on F#. It's written by Scott Wlaszczyn, and that's very awesome source of knowledge. There is F# Software Foundation that has a lot of other learning sources, so it's also very good. I also included a link for F# type provider white paper that it's like 20-something white paper explaining how it works internally. I read it like 4 times and still don't understand it fully, but at some point I will understand. And there are some blog posts, and of course you look at hashtag F# on Twitter. There are many nice people there, and very nice way to ask a question and get to know new stuff. Some talks I suggest watching if you want to get into F# or type providers. One of them is by Tomasz Petryczek, really nice talk. And thank you. And I'll take questions if you have. Yay. Yes?
You say if you want on the state of F# and more generally .NET on Linux and macOS, basically on Unix systems. So there is starting with Mono for now, or Mono is it merging into main thing? Because there's a lot of things going on, and what's the most recent update on this?
So for until recently it was just Mono,
yeah.
But for some time Mono was in very close cooperation with Microsoft, so they weren't dragging behind like a few years back ago. So Mono was quite good, but I think like last month Microsoft announced .NET Core that they will open source it and it runs on Linux. And I didn't really experience how it works, but from I hear it works pretty well.
Someone here experience it?
Yes, but not with F#. Okay, this works. Okay. Yeah, with C# web service.
Yeah, so it should work on F# because it's like it compiled to the code that runs on the platform. So if the C# works.
Yeah, I was showing demos with F# on Mono on a Mac, and it worked.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're
actually more interested in the fully a real thing. Because I know Mono is very close and everything, but I just want the real thing for Microsoft, which is open source now. So it's supposed to run on Linux, and when we can put it in production, basically is the question.
Actually, there's people using production F# on Linux already. They do use Mono, but unless you need certification, is that why you're so concerned of getting the Microsoft version?
Basically, to be sure to have the one which will be like outstanding.
Well, the thing that the F#, the code of F# is under the stewardship of F# Foundation, and so the same code that is pushed to .NET, as far as I know, is pushed also to Linux, and the packages that are produced are those.
Yeah, if I may just add one note, releasing .NET, especially for Linux, is basically merging it with Mono.
Yes,
so,
this is what I understood.
So it is going to be one platform anyway, you don't have to choose one.
Yes, but actually my question is, what's the state of this? Does it already done, or is it too early?
But there are some builds passing already. Microsoft has.
I know, I saw GitHub builds passing on Linux, so this is my question.
It's more to progress.
Okay.
It's probably Microsoft.
And they're changing a lot. I mean, it's breaking changes all the way.
Questions? More questions? Why F-sharp?
Really? After so many F-sharp sessions on this conference, you still have doubts? I mean, you can pick Erlang, but yeah. Cool, thank you.